you get that from? That's
Oh,
so
listen,
awesome.
I have been obsessed with Wonder Woman ever since I found out about her. I even told my grandmother that I was going to be her when I grew up, but it was because I didn't understand
Oh,
the concept of television and and cartoons and how. But you know what? She never knocked it. She said, "Okay, baby, okay,
you
okay,
don't want
baby."
to knock your dreams down. No, no. But you know what? I'm feeling it all. I'm feeling the boss, plaque right there. And my keyword for this year, peace. Like
Oh,
that's like really major.
yes,
Yeah.
and this is one of my grandmothers. There are
Oh, I
three of them in my life
see.
that have been. This is my mother's mom. No one has ever look at you seeing
I
everything.
was drawn
No
to
one has
it.
ever noticed that. She's back there. But you know how you have that special best friend. She
Yes.
was my special best friend. But I feel like we jumping ahead because
Yes, we are.
we
Sorry,
first
guys.
of all we got to tell the people. We get caught up. Y'all got to excuse us because this is my sister. I prayed for her and we found each other. But first, tell the people who you are, your name, and just your business, what you do, and then we'll get into the journey and our story.
Okay, so everyone, my name is Adesola Akindele. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 20 years. I'm 38, so I've been doing this since I was 18. Um,
Wow.
I started my business, my first business, first time when I made money was literally the year I started university. So, I was like doing hair. Actually, it was before that, actually. When I was in boarding house, I used to do hair for money. So I already had an entrepreneurial spirit like
Yeah.
deep within me. I'm grateful that I was able to experience a lot of things from both my parents and grandmother, to see how business literally is run, and the way it supplements your 9 to 5 income. I also saw the side of 9 to 5 I didn't like. I didn't like how absent my parents were. I didn't like how down and depressed they seemed to be by working for somebody, but they had to. They had mouths to feed, they had bills to pay, which I wish I understood at the time. But in my mind, it was always like, I'm always going to work for myself. I'm not going to work for anybody else. So I always had that in my head. Anyway, so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also general partner at a VC firm with two other African ladies.
Yes.
In Black women, we invest in immigrants and their children, which is kind of new because a lot of people don't tend to understand that children have amazing ideas that should be invested in to enable them to actually earn money to possibly even pay for their own college education or whatever it is that they want to do with their lives. I'm an author of an entrepreneurial book that focuses on self-awareness and emotional intelligence. I wrote it this way because it was a journey that I went on by myself. And I saw what a difference it made in me focusing on on becoming more self-aware and working on my emotional intelligence. That is at 80% at the moment now, because as Christiana can tell you, sometimes a different shoulder comes up when I'm triggered by something. I'm someone who has survived different bouts of mental illness. I survived depression. I'm dealing with anxiety at the moment, which is on point, which is being regulated well because I have good people around me.
Yeah.
I have a steady stream of positive energy, and I self-care like crazy. That's like a big major thing for me.
Yes.
And as Chris would also tell you, she's part of that, of that family.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
she checks in on me. She holds me accountable for myself and my health and my mental state of mind as well. Because when you're someone who has a massive mission and wants to help so many people, it gets to you sometimes. You do have some failures, and sometimes they really feel like, oh my goodness, I've failed 100 people, when you should just focus on what you've actually have done and the present thing. As I said, I started my journey when I was 18, while I was at uni. I did everything to make money, man. I cooked food. I had this bachelor's thing where I used to cook for
But you used to cook food?
yeah, I did. I used to cook food for them because they don't cook. So I'll cook and then I'll
This is
deliver
true.
it. I did that. I did hair. Then I started my fashion business. I wouldn't call it that. I won't call it fashion. It was clothes for clubbing. And I used to literally buy scarves and shoelaces and make skimpy outfits for us to wear out clubbing. It
That's
was really crazy. Yeah.
awesome. Wow. Wait, you forgot. There were two other, when you were talking about your business ventures that you
Oh,
have now, you forgot to mention more media
oh my goodness.
and
Yeah,
chocolates.
my tech company.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm also half of a tech company called More Media Tech. I run that with my Pakistani partner, and we create apps, software as service. We develop software as service ideas for founders of color. We also help them prepare their pitch. So literally what we actually do that's very different, we prepare the designs, like, the UI, UX designs for your idea, so that you can go out there and then talk to people in the app. So as you know, we have a trademark product called Vitch, and we literally just prepare your pitch deck with the app designs and how it's going to look, so that you can go out there, do your market research, because that's very important. If you don't know whether people want your product or how much they're going to pay for it, you're going to waste your time and money putting together. So what we literally did together, myself and my partner, was we sat down, looked at my skill set, looked at his, and said, look, I want to create businesses that are going to live, so that we have a solid portfolio, instead of just helping people just launch things and then they never combine your experience as an entrepreneur to look at these businesses. What kind of product can we do? And that's how we came up with Vitch. I said, look, if we can focus on Vitch, it would draw in people. They would actually spend that time going out to speak to people about their idea, use it at pitch competitions, and once they get some kind of traction, they can come back and say, hey, you know what, we're ready, we found an investor. And that's what I always tell people, man, is fine and dandy using some of your money and bootstrapping, but when you're thinking about expanding or growing beyond, your community or yourself, you need to use other people's money. And there are lots of people who are willing to help you out with angel investment, seed, or venture funds, to help you grow and scale your business. So this is one of the reasons why I set up More Media Tech. It used to be More Media before, where I did design, like general design, websites,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. But as I was, evolving as an entrepreneur to becoming a tech entrepreneur, I decided that, look, I needed my company to move along with me as well. And that's when I was able to find a great partner. Yeah, that's one of the companies. The other one, actually, which is brand new that you know about, is called High Gear. So
Yes.
High Gear is a company that, that is with 3 Black female inventors. We actually have a patent pending status right now at the USPT office. We've come up with this technology that's going to help Africa deal with the COVID-19 crisis. We're in stealth mode now at the moment, so we're just working on getting our prototype. We've spoken to investors and things like that. It's gone really well. We have one fully on board at the moment. So we're just obviously partner or get acquired by one of the big companies here out in the West, but we're really intentional about making sure that our investors are people that look like us and from the continent, because the continent needs the kind of products that we're putting out there. Because most times, you get a situation, Pan-Africans are the last to get benefits of anything that is made to solve any global crisis problem. So we decided to take that direction with this company. It's also a company that is using a model from our venture capital firm, Sheba. So there's a lot riding on this company to make sure it's successful, because once our model is true, my goal is to push that VC model across Pan-Africa, because, even though venture capital is something years to create unicorns, it has to fit the people as well. So VC fits West, but it doesn't necessarily fit Pan-Africa, because we see money in a different company, different light. We don't believe in credit. So you have to start thinking of, okay, what kind of creative ways can I ensure that this model that works and helps companies scale pretty quickly, can be applied to this elsewhere, or can be venture world. So yeah, so that's about it for me. I can give you my history if, Crystal, let me go back.
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to get in that, but I definitely wanted the folks to really see the breadth of work that the body of work that you've done to this point, and understand that you are a serial entrepreneur. You've started many ventures, very successful ventures. But I want to kind of start back at the beginning of this whole journey that has gotten you to this point. And obviously some of these companies you have built and sold, and other ones you have built and kept. But talk to me about how you started this. Like, why are you doing this? Why?
This is, I've always, it's so strange, because I was reading like some of my report cards before this, this meet with you, to just see, okay, where did I get this stuff from? And everything, like every teacher said, was like, I was ambitious, tenacious. But one thing I can say that I didn't know what I was supposed to do when I start, when I became conscious or whatever, and I became pretty conscious very early in life, like probably I can say maybe 12, 13, that I was meant to do something. I was meant to help people. How I was going to do it, I didn't know. I just, tried my best. Like everyone just knew me as a nice kid. Like I was just a nice person. I couldn't say no, which, to my own detriment was affecting me, in a different way. And I didn't notice until a lot later. I had a family that, was always about striving for excellence. I came from a family of academics, so I had no, I was raised in an African household. My grandmother was there most of the time. My mom was working. My parents separated when I was, I think, was it 9 or 10 years old. I tried my best to, maintain some form of sanity then. But, what I found that used to bring me peace was creating things, and I just knew that, okay, if I could do something, create something, write something. At that time, it was writing poetry. I was part of, I think it was the debate club at school. Then I did part of my secondary education in Nigeria. And, I was also the class captain for quite a few years. So anything I could do to improve myself was always the focus. It was about always improving myself. I wasn't never done. I had to do some more. Also an issue. Like I literally fall ill before I can rest. And then the older I got, I realized that there were different paths I could take. At first I was wanting to be a lawyer because mostly like my grandfather was a diplomat. He was a lawyer as well, an accountant. My mother was a lawyer. I liked how she had, could come and go, was able to take care of us, take care of her family. And, in Africa, the firstborn takes care of not just her kids, but her parents too. And then subsequently cousins and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we had that kind of system in our household. And sometimes it used to make me feel in a way where are we always going to have enough? But we always did. So it was something like I said, okay, there seems to be enough for everybody, that everyone can be okay. That kind of stuck in my head as well, because it's what helps me today by not ensuring that I don't go down a greedy route. I did go down a greedy route at a time in my life, and I'll tell you about that. But, I checked myself. When I got into a lot of trouble, I willed myself back and I said, you know what, this is not how my life guy up there saying, okay, what am I supposed to do? Because I don't feel like I'm doing it. And that's one of the things that led to my depression as well, because I felt like I wasn't being the person I was supposed to be. Like I felt like I was watching someone else's life, my spirit within was not happy with how I was living my life or all the things that were going on, things I was exposing myself to be honest. So, it took a lot for me to change my direction, to become this person that you're seeing today. I always tell people, like, look, man, this is a lot of work and there's still a lot more work to be done, because I'm just now accepting who I am, falling in love with myself. Anytime I notice something about myself I don't like, I check myself. Before I just keep going, but now it's like, okay, I didn't like that. I didn't like how I reacted to that. Let's see what's wrong, what's triggering me. And I have to say, Chris, you're actually one of the people that part of that. You helped me see that, okay, show that, it's a good thing that, I wish I could speak from this moment up front as opposed to my journey to this point, but I know my journey. I have so many things that the world was supposed would be against me becoming successful. I'm a Black woman, I'm Nigerian, I'm a single mother, I'm plus size and I'm happy, but there's so many things that, people will just say, oh, blah, 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 but that doesn't mean anything if your mind is right. If you got the right mindset and you have a goal and you have a target and you're moving towards it and aligning yourself that way, not stopping, meeting people who would elevate you and move you closer to that goal, that's all that matters. And if I'm a godly person, so I know that a lot of these things is not just me, it's the Almighty steering me, even so I can identify what was wrong with me, what was wrong with my character that I had to fix, because if I didn't, I would not be able to open the door to the next level in my life. And
I mean, you're talking about self-awareness, and self-reflection, and taking the time out to understand the level of awareness needed to live in consciousness, is so valuable, but oftentimes we push it aside because of the work that it takes to do it. And last night, I was talking to Chioma, a really good just health wellness, and one of the things she was bringing up is a regiment that she puts into place, not only with herself, but her clients, to help keep them on track. And it really folded into what we're hearing, which is, I keep telling people there's a formula to everything. And I remember standing in the middle of my living room, and similar to what you're talking about is like, when I see that I'm not able to get through something, I recognize that there's something intrinsic that I need to work on. And I just cried out in the middle of my living room, and I said, teach me the formula, show me the formula. What's the formula? What is it? What is it that I'm missing? And I got three things: discipline and sacrifice. And
Yes.
that's what you're talking about right now. If you are willing to be obedient to whatever the purpose is that's been given to you, if you're willing to be disciplined in executing the work that needs to be done, and willing to make the sacrifice, because there's always sacrifices that must be made.
Yeah, there is.
Everything that
Everything.
is worth value, that's going to benefit you and others, requires a sacrifice. And so if you are willing to do those things, then it will yield at some point what you are seeking. And so I really appreciate you saying, I did self-awareness. I pull back, and yes, we've had many conversations about that, and transparent, and tears and laughter and joy around it. But yeah, and
Yeah.
hugs. Yeah, you need that. So when you were started to think to yourself, well, when did I become this person? At what point did I start feeding this entrepreneurial spirit? Sounds like it was really early on in your childhood, but also what you saw around you, your parents. And even though there was some fragmented pieces of it where you saw, oh gosh, they're gone for hours and we're left here to fend for ourselves with our grandmother. Oh, I don't really want to, so you're making that kind of calculated decision on what it is you want to do. But then you had mentioned also that in college you saw opportunity. I was speaking a couple of weeks back to a gentleman based out of Sweden, and he said something similar, where he said he was selling newspapers. So he lives in this small town, and the newspaper is sold in a bigger town, and he saw that and they couldn't get it in the small town. They'd have to go drive to so he would take it upon himself as a 13-year-old young man, Somali young man, and ride his bike up there, or have his dad, something how he would go up there, get all these papers for free.
Come and resell them.
They were all free. And then he would sell it because he saw the community. There was a need, and he filled the need, right? A supply and demand, like perfect. And he knew it at 13. And to your point, when you got to uni, you saw supply and demand. You saw hair needed to be done and food needed to be cooked. And you stepped into that and was able to make profit from it. So from there, like, how did you then launch like your first like real business? And what was the first real business?
Yeah. So when I finished uni, and like where I have to give credit and go to a careers advisor, speak to them about, basically lining up jobs for you. So I went to University College London, one of the top universities in England, and I was studying economics. Now, most people would expect that I would get a job in either Goldman Sachs or one of the financial firms, but that wasn't, I didn't like doing accounts. Like, I mean, I tried it. I did management financial accounts, and I left the class. Like the first class, I'm like, what's this? The next I tried, so okay, maybe management accounting will be easy. And it's all like, no, this is harder. And in fact, the irony right now, just so you see how life is and how tricky, the big man upstairs is, I have to do that as my first courses in my MBA. And I was like, oh. So these last 2 weeks, I've not been myself, because I've been looking at ledgers, T accounts, all these things that I ran away years ago, and I'm having to do them for founders. So in my mind, I was like, there are apps for this stuff. Why am I learning this basic things? But my mom's like, you know what? It's good to learn the basics so that, if anything ever happens, you're like, oh, I know what's wrong is because of this. Because when businesses fail, they look at the accounts. And that is where I can tell you that some of my failures were. It had to always do with accounts. It had to always do with my management of time, money, or cash flow, or things like that, which I had to really buck up and understand, moving forward, for me to make sure it didn't happen again. So the first business I started officially was a fashion business. Actually, it was a bakery called Solaki Bakery, and also a fashion business called Solaki as well. The bakery was very successful, but there was something off for me. I like baking for people. I like seeing how they feel when they eat my food. I didn't like selling it. It was really weird. But making clothes was more fun for me. I liked that because I used to make a lot of money. I mean, at that time I was with my ex then, and what he would make in a month, I would make in a week. So it was, which kind of caused problems. And not with him, with other people who thought that, I should step back, which is actually what I did. The reason why I didn't get a job was to step back, to give him time to, figure out himself and be something, because I knew myself. You just put me somewhere and then bam, I'm going to explode. So I wanted to give him that space. And my grandmother was ailing at the time. She had a stroke. So I was helping my mom out at home. So I needed to figure out something I could do that would help assisting my mother, and also making money at the same time. So, after about a few months, I got home. I told my mom, hey, here's my certificate. I want to start a fashion business. She was like, what? No, you're going to go get the job. She's like, no. And see, I wish I had articulated to my mother that it's not that I don't want to get a job. I have worked. I've done 9-to-5 jobs, but they were not enough. Despite me spending all that time, this is something I couldn't explain to my mother. And then another thing, I watched my mom work so hard for people and not be appreciated. I couldn't understand that. This woman was amazing. She was great at what she did. She always did more than expected. And still, it wasn't, it just looked like it was something was so sucking her. And I wasn't this kind of, I wish I could have told people then that I wasn't strong enough to do that every day. I couldn't do that every day. I had to do something that was more fulfilling. And I didn't have a way of saying it then that would not insult all the stuff that she had been doing for us by keeping the job, by working in government for so long.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I had to myself.
That is, but when you're saying that, I immediately stop for a minute, because what you're saying is something that a lot of kids grow up seeing, where their parents come home beat down, exhausted. You hear the stories time and time again of adult men and women thanking their mothers for, I'm speaking specifically to single parents, thanking them for the labor, them working 2, 3, 4 jobs. But we never talked about, or I've never had the conversation about the motivation for not going that route, for saying that I want to do something different than that I want to go the opposite road. And that's what you did, mentally, methodically did.
I did that exactly. I like the way you said that, because there's something that there's a saying that my dad always says, like, the spirit wills, but the body isn't is not able to do it. Because our spirit thinks that we can do anything, but because of the restrictions we have on this plane, on this earth, we're restricted by so many things to achieve stuff. So, my spirit was somewhere else. Meanwhile, the present was just doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Now that disassociation also affected me a lot mentally. This is things that cause depression, because you can do it. It's like you can. I mean, and I'm an empath, so I can see things ahead quickly. That's why my mind races quickly. I mean, you've worked with me, so you guys will know that by the time you guys are already on number 2, I'm already at 10.
Right.
So how am I seeing 10 and I'm still at 2? What's going on with the 8 in the middle? That used to frustrate me a lot. And sometimes I would be so exhausted. Why am I still here? There was no way I could do that on a 9-to-5 job. I realized that, what? I need to work for myself to get there myself. And another thing that people always ask me, and I'm glad I can answer this question today: how do I keep going? I said, because I remember what I'm avoiding, and I need to make sure I succeed. Even if there's a month I don't make money, I drive harder to make sure that the next month I do, because I'm trying to make sure I don't work for somebody else. I realized that, look, I ain't getting nowhere. I said, okay, something is wrong here. There's something wrong with what I'm doing. I started to meet people who are other receivers and said this, but it's not for you. And it makes sense, because what would happen, I would meet people down the line, that needed what I received maybe a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. So what I decided to do was document. I have a diary. I write down everything I receive. It might not be now. The person might not be ready. And this. Sometimes I can be very, if the recipient isn't ready, and there's nothing you can do. And, it's funny, because what frustrates me the most lets me know where I'm supposed to work in. I'm frustrated when I see people who have potential and they're not realizing it. I don't get that. Making different choices that lead you away from your calling. That's stressing me out, because I've always moved towards my calling. So meeting people who are not in that same space has been very frustrating for me, and when people ask how come you've achieved so much, it's because I said, look, I moved to what I've been called to. I have to. I have no choice. Like, I feel it and I go. As opposed to like my mom, she will see it, she will plan the steps. I'm not detail orientated. I'm not a planner. And then before she attacks, like I don't do that. So what I've learned is that's a weakness of mine. I partner with people like that. A third of my, like the one of my partners is my mother and Sheba Venture Partners. And it's because I know that every time I've done something with her, it's been excellent. It's been because my mom checks all the dots.
You said a mouthful in this time, but I just want to make sure that we're extracting out. You talked about being still. When I asked you about the how, you were like, well, first I had to be still. The next thing I had to do was ask for help. So as I ask for help and I'm still, I am receiving. And then you started to be intentional about the engagement, the information you were receiving. And then you went on to talk about accountability, that you couldn't do it alone. And you recognized that there were areas that you fell short in, that others that you were given as a gift, whether we realize it or not, they're a gift. The ones that are so organized and structured, where we're just, oh my God, can you please just go somewhere? They're actually a gift to us. Yes, to keep us in alignment with whatever it is that we're executing. Because part of that really stuck out to me and made me a little watery-eyed was you talking about just surrendering. Well, I heard it as surrendering, where when you came to your crossroad, and instead of trying to control, because that's me, my personality is controlling the narrative, because when I can control it, then there's no room for error. And if there is error, then it's on me. Right? But man, I drove myself insane trying to hit all these benchmarks by certain ages and do all these things. And I had to make my mom proud, and I had to make my dad proud, and I wasn't going to let anyone, and everyone was relying on me, and I'm perfect, and I walk in it. Man, I had in private. And then it started to melt down in public because I couldn't keep holding up that facade. But what you were saying was that's what made me watery-eyed, was letting go of the outcome. I had to literally say, okay, this is what I'm guided towards. And I'm like you, I lean into what is being given to me, even if it seems like, you about to do what? When I started down this path, people were like, you're doing what? Wait, what are you talking? What is that? Because it wasn't the language they were used to, a 9-to-5, a job title. I'm going out into, and I have entrepreneurs in my family, business owners, some of them very successful, some of them hard journey up into them getting successful, and then having many failures, financial failures. So those that didn't understand was just scared for me to fail, because they were like, we don't want you to endure that pain. But one of the things that I had to do was the whole letting go. And when you said that, I was just like, ooh, child, let me tell you, the letting go of the outcome, because I know what I want it to be, but that's not what it may be designed. And when I let go, and like you said, and let God, like, man. So as you're going through this process and you're learning yourself, as you still are, and it's an ongoing journey, and you're having highs and lows, and you're recognizing the mental health that's starting to impact, what do you do? I mean, because, society says, go take some prescription medication. And is that the road that you went down, or did you do a combination? And share whatever you feel comfortable in sharing. But I know that you and I have had these mental health, it's a passion of ours. And so it's so important for us to be transparent.
Yes.
In this
so
area.
Let me start with the discovery that was an issue. Okay. And this is a very personal thing that I share anyway. When I was, I think, 15, 16, sorry about the noise. I'm just trying to get it controlled. I did have a suicide attempt. Now, this was not easy on my family at the time, and they still didn't understand what was wrong, because in most Black communities, mental health is not something that is spoken about. It's not understood. Yeah, that's like, because we're a tough group of people, so we go through a lot. So for someone to not be all right up here, it was difficult, and that transition for me was when, I had left my family in Nigeria, and I was now starting my life in England fully. Stayed with a family, wasn't used to the dynamics, used maid does everything, there's driver to take you wherever you want to go. I was in private school, I had friends, and all of a sudden I was on my own again. My mom, that I used to see every day, my grandmother, who I had tough relationship with, who I used to see every day, my brothers, all gone just like that. And it was a decision I made. I think that was what was hard for me. I wanted to leave. I wanted to start my life, see what I could do there, and really, make full use of, because I didn't feel like the person I wasn't fitting in back home. It was really, my friends would talk about things that were not on my mind. I was thinking about, like, just the easiest way to describe it was, I was thinking like Forbes. Okay, how can I get in that magazine? How can I write for time? And I just wasn't seeing that happening with the space, in the space I was in. It was just too small. The world was too small when what I was seeing was grander. And, I know that it was a pain point for my mom, because she didn't want to leave me alone and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't alone. I had the family with there. I was very lucky to the wife of my mom's cousin was really nice to me. She tried her best, I was still the top of my class again, I did really well in school. That wasn't the issue. It was what was going on here, and then it's on my record. So once you have that, you're on suicide watch basically, and any little thing that happens to you, like, okay, what's going on, blah 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 blah. So I had to see a counselor throughout my, like, all the way up through to when I finished uni, before I went back to Nigeria, which was 21. So maybe about 6 years, regularly going in. I wasn't on medication then. It was not until university that I went on medication. So one day I just said, okay, I was just crying a lot. I didn't understand what was going on. And it was weird because it has something to do with my course. I enjoyed economics, but I didn't enjoy the part of economics I was doing. The reason I studied economics was to figure out what was wrong with Africa. Why isn't Africa where it's supposed to be? How can we have all the resources and what is going on? Like, literally, so even at A levels when I did economics, there was no way to calculate corruption, right? So what I did instead was supplement my study of Africa for EU, because EU was coming together. So I said, okay, let me see how someone is coming together with different countries, different, cultures and stuff, see how they're making it work. And then maybe in the future, be part of the people who, unite Africa and unite, and at that time, I wasn't aware that there were other people like me, or countries were full of people like me. So let me just declare my ignorance at that time. I wanted to work with the UN. I wanted to do something big. Like, if I was going to work, I had to work with the best organization in the world. I always had this thing of going big. And because of that, I was stressing myself when I didn't even achieve these big goals. I didn't even notice the little goals I was surpassing. So that's why I'm like, no one can compete with me, because it's not that I'm not competing with anyone. What I'm doing, what I want to do for myself is so grand that even the things that I'm using to pass you guys, I'm not even noticing. It didn't mean anything to me. It was later on, like, I think it was like about a few years ago, my mom was recalling some things I had done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot I did that. Oh, that's true, I actually did that. Man, it was crazy. She said, look, Shola, I'm so proud of you. I wish you would just see yourself. When I became a mom, I now learned about letting go. I can't control my kid. So how am I going to even control anybody else? So it was like, learning patience from her taught me how to realize something. And my mom said something one day, said, Shola, stop putting dates on your goals. And I looked at her, I'm like, what? But she was right. Stop putting, because Shola, I realized that the closer you get to those dates, you lose yourself. You just become like erratic. And I'm like, she's right. So if you notice, like, a lot of things I do now, I don't like putting dates towards it. I'm like, it will be sometime in summer, or it would be next year. I say that now, not to be vague, but because I don't know what's going to happen between now and that moment that's going to change things or the direction. Even high gear, I didn't really talk about, I don't talk about things that you've noticed until I've done it.
Yeah.
Until I've done. Like, remember when I told you about I had my samples and I was trying to sell online, I just didn't want to share the idea, and then it doesn't materialize. I don't like being that person. So, in terms of the mental health, it's been a journey. I now discovered that based on talking to a life coach, actually, my depression started when I was 7 years old. I remember the time when that happened. It was the first time I felt I disappointed my parents. I had a horrible migraine and a stiff neck, the first ever. And I couldn't be happy, smiley. So my parents had invited like several guests. It's a big birthday in Africa. And I was just, you see the pictures, I looked like I was crying like the whole time. And my mom was just frustrated because to her, at that time, I didn't realize she was having issues in her marriage. She just said, I'm just like my dad. My dad and I share the same birthday. My dad suffers from migraines, you know. So in her mind, and stiff neck. So you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to be just like your dad kind of thing. So she projected at that time, and she didn't know that it affected me a lot. You know, it was later on in my life that I actually told her that, Mom, you know, that really affected me. And I'm glad that I'm in a position, or I'm able to talk to my mom about things like this, because it's not easy talking to your parents about this. Reminded that, look, Mom, this is not about you. You didn't do anything. I'm just expressing like what happened that activated something, you know. But you see, this problem had nothing to do with the situation that activated it. It was already there.
Yeah.
And this problem was so heavy. If I didn't work on it as early as I have and I'm doing now, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
You know, what was going on in my mind was so much. It was stopping me from achieving my potential. I had to face it. And I did when I left, you know, when I came here, because it was a situation where I had lost a business that I was doing really well, and all of a sudden it was gone. And I said to myself, I said, okay, what am I going to do now? I know I can't work with somebody. I have to get a job. I started just thinking of, you know, I was like, I don't want to do business again. So many things went through my mind. And I said to myself, I said, okay, I need to sort this out. This problem isn't physical. It's not something someone can see. This is different. I need to, and I had a kid. So I had to come to where I felt safest, so that if anything happened to me, someone could take care of my daughter, which was with my mom. So I had to take time out to be by myself, to heal what was going on in here, to decide which direction I was going to take, to prioritize, to discover who I really was. And it was weird. It was in my daughter's Girl Scout class. This lady was only part of that group for 1 year, but I know that it was because I had to meet her. And she became my life coach. And she worked with spirit. See, the thing was that I was working with shrinks and counselors. I wasn't working because this is I was living in a secular society. They don't mention God. They don't mention that. And I needed to be able to talk about that to someone.
Yes.
That, look,
Yes.
I need to share this part of
who you are. You can't separate God. And it's not about religion, but you cannot separate the God that you can feel inside of you.
Exactly.
See, when you look at people, the light. Cancer. I totally understand.
Yes. Grew up, we know about this connection. And I was like, I'm not feeling this. Being in England, I didn't feel it, you know, because I said it was a secular society. Like, I don't have to go to church to have to feel it. I have to feel it every day. So I knew that I was doing wrong stuff. I had to admit to myself that there's some roads I've taken in my life that I shouldn't have never been on. And it was just a misalignment, you know, greed, ego, pride, you know, all the things that make you do the wrong things. I did. And I don't blame anyone. I blame myself for letting myself be part of that kind of situation.
But it was your journey. It was part of what I've learned is how to be compassionate to myself, because whatever road I went down that kind of scared me off of my journey, it was there to help me understand, you know, the bigger picture of the process. You know, one of the things that I think is so important for us to acknowledge is that the process of unfolding the vision or the purpose is wide. I mean, it's all kinds of off-roading, and it's not just linear. And to acknowledge when you do get off course, and you're on that path, to find, I call it the rope of salvation, but I don't mean like salvation. About what I mean is, you know, when I feel myself sinking, then I look for my lifelines. And the lifelines are just those people in my life that I have connected with, and I call them the circle of truth, not trust. It's an someone that's saying on here that off-roading is a great descriptive word. But I just realized that it's just part of the process, and when I have those people I can hold on to help bring me back on course. And I say circle of truth, not circle of um, of trust as well, because I can trust you but not share my truth. And I didn't realize that until I started to really evaluate myself. And there were people that I have been accountable to for years, people that I love, that love me, older than me, younger than me, because, age means nothing. It's all about maturity. And I trusted them deeply. And guess what I wasn't doing? Sharing my truth.
Mm.
Why?
Mm.
Because I trust you enough to share what I want you to share. But if I'm really going to focus on my truth and being my authentic self, then that requires me being completely vulnerable and open. I don't know, but it had to do with not them. I didn't trust myself. So when I was saying, oh yeah, I trust you, it's a word that we throw around a lot. But when I dug deep, I was like, well, wait a minute. Do I trust myself enough to be open and vulnerable? No, there were things that I was projecting. So it was a lot of heavy work that needed to be done on my end. And I love your comprehensive approach of doing for you, it was the traditional medicine along with the non-traditional. And for me, I have a counselor, I call them on tap. My counselor is on tap. I interview my counselors before I work with them. I think it's important for us to connect with those that have that spiritual understanding. And oftentimes it's important for the person to look like me. I need to understand what it's like to be a Black woman in this world. And I appreciate if you are a woman of color, we may have some similarities. I appreciate if you're a woman, we may have some, but there are times I need to talk to a Black woman who's been in corporate America, who knows what it's like to experience microaggressions, because there are things that we deal with as human beings, as women, as Black women, as immigrants. For you, I mean, there's so many different layers of things, and all of that is coming out while you're doing this entrepreneurial journey. So I think what I appreciate most about you and my relationship is when you onboarded early with me as my mentor, you gave permission for me to be my authentic self, to share however I wanted to share, how much I wanted to share, and to challenge not just me, but you as well as we were working together. And I think that's what then allowed me to share my truth. Then that I was able to really build that authentic. We could talk about this all day, and maybe there's a part two. I think there's a part two here for us.
Yes, there should be.
Again, I just let these conversations flow. These conversations flow however they're supposed to, and you're taking on a whole different dynamic than what I expected. And this is one of the reasons why I love you, and I'm so grateful that God saw fit to bring you. Thank you for your patience. But it's important for me to acknowledge that and to honor that, because I don't take it lightweight. So thank you. Thank you so much for this time.
It's not because
Listen.
I love you. I love you. You know that holding space for you has been an honor. Working with you has been an honor. You are the most authentic person I know. What you say you do, you see me. You remember the first time you did, and I was like, what? Guys, like, look, you guys, I have to tell you this, because so here was I mentoring this darling Christiana, and she decides to ask me a question, and I decide to blow her off. I saw you. I saw what you did. You just deflected that question. So what's going on with you? And I'm like, wait, what? Did she just? Man, guys, I thought I was seriously intelligent until I met Chris, because she caught me in my game. She was like, wait, come back here. I know what's good. And I was shocked because nobody cares enough to do that. And this is probably on, I think, our third or fourth meeting, and it was always on the phone, and I tend to do on the phone stuff or text because it's less personal, But after that moment, I knew I don't want to use the word trust, but this is the best thing I could use to describe it. And I don't use that word lightly. I knew that I could feel the same with you. The way I feel around my mother. And to this day, she's like the only person I see on a regular basis. I want you to know that if you ever come across this woman, you're already blessed.
Oh man.
Because she's a conduit. She's there, like this. If there's something stuck or blocked in you, or there's something, a way you can't open, you need to be with Christiana, because I know that once you're there, it's not just me that will benefit. Everybody else will. My mom has experienced your light, your glory. Even I've seen this happen. So many people are attracted to you. You and Louis have that thing. People just come. You just like a bouncing light ball or a bag of money, as I always say. And it's like, that's the thing about light. People will always go to it in darkness. In my darkness, you were there. And I'm glad that, and other people make what we have even better.
Yes.
So, I'm honored to have spent this hour with you, sis. I would love to spend more hours with you, as you know.
Yes. We're perfect way of wrapping it up, and I usually ask for a call to action, and you gave the call to action for those that will be watching this. Let the people know how they can reach you.
Okay, you can reach me on LinkedIn, and please, when you come at me on LinkedIn, please become correct. If you want to be all friendly and stuff, We the Plug too. We the Plug is like, to me, the Black LinkedIn. So, also do the same thing too. If you need anything Pan-African wide, or have any projects that, are going to unite, a big major thing for me. I'm on Twitter as Akindele, Asakindele. Same thing on Facebook, Adesola Akindele, or created by Adesola Akindele, I think. You'll find me there. I have my website, adesolaakindele.com/connect. You can see everything I'm doing there. I put it all out there. So if you feel there's anything there that you can collaborate with me on, let's have it. Let's sit down. Let's have a talk. I have my consulting where I help founders, prep them for investment. I look at whatever you've got, improve your revenue streams, get your business models so that you can actually go and pitch and get some money to your business. So that's another thing. And that one is not free. So if you want me to do one, yeah, I can do that for you. Mentoring is on a call basis, in the sense where when I feel the spirit move, I do it. And I tend to mentor 3 people a year. Christiana and Louis were fortunate. About minimum 3 months to 9 months, I guarantee if we can't work together, I will tell you already in the first couple of, by the 3rd meeting, I'm like, you know what, I can't be your mentor, but I'm open here, ready. So yeah, it's been an honor, Chris. Guys, reach out to me wherever, and I'll be happy to connect.
Sounds good. All right. Well, you guys know how to reach her. I'll also put links to all her social media platforms. Again, she is on We the Plug. She is our resident advisor for Pan-African Affairs. And so we're excited to have had her on today and share her journey with us today. So again, thank you for checking out another episode of the Cafecito series with Christiana. Remember to stay connected with us on wethepplug.com, or if you're on our membership page, definitely reach out to me. And if you want to be on an episode of the Cafecito, please let me know. I'd love to sit down and chat with you. Thank you so much for your time, Adesola. Adesola.